I'm Anil Kumar. Welcome to my series on linear systems. We have 10 excellent examples here. All these examples have been taken from my students' assignments and test papers. So they should help you a lot in solving any question based on linear systems. We are going to solve all the 10 by the method of substitution. You may find that some of them are better to be solved with elimination. However, we'll focus on this method of substitution to solve in this particular video. Question number 1 here is, at a concert, adult tickets cost $12 and children's ticket cost $8. If $9.60 was collected from sales of 90 tickets, determine the number of children's tickets sold, right? So first step is to define variables. Which we'll always do with let statements. We'll say let. We need to find number of tickets sold, children's tickets and adult tickets. Let the number, I'll use this as number. So number of adult tickets. Be A and number of children's tickets be C, right? So we have to use the variables which make sense, right? So A for adults and C for children. Now the second step will be to write system of equations. Which comes straight from the statements given here. It says at the concert, adult tickets cost $12 and children's tickets cost $8. If $960 was collected from the sale of 90 tickets, that means total is 90. So that really tells you that A plus C is equal to 90. So this statement which says that was collected from a sale of 90 tickets, right? So that is the total number of tickets. The other statement which gives you the second equation is the cost itself. So $960 is to be associated with the cost of the ticket, right? So $12 for each. So A tickets sold, that means 12A plus 8 times C, number of children tickets sold, should give you $960. Does it make sense to you? So we get two equations. We are going to number these equations as equation number 1 and 2. So let me write this as equation 1 and this as equation 2. So this is our second step. Now third step is when we are using the method of substitution, we have to write one variable in terms of the other. So we need to isolate variable. You could isolate any variable. So from equation 1, we can say A is equal to 90 minus C. Now why did I isolate A? The question says determine the number of children's ticket, right? So since we need children's tickets sold, I'll rather keep my equation in terms of C, right? This we get from 1, right? So this is from 1, you get A is 90 minus C, correct? Now in the method of substitution, we need to substitute this in the second equation. So I'm calling this as my equation number 3. Okay. Now the last step here will be sub 3 in 2. So when you substitute 3 in 2, you get equation only in terms of C. So A is 90 minus C. So we get here 12 times 90 minus C. So we replaced A with 90 minus C plus 8C equals to 960. Is that clear? Now we get one equation in terms of one variable, which in our case is c. Then the final step here is to solve for unknown. So in this case it will be c, right? So let's solve for c. So let's take this equation here. I'm going to rewrite this. It is 12 times 90 minus c plus 8c equals to 960. So apply the distributive property, open the bracket. If you want, you could simplify this dividing all by 4 also at this stage. You could do that, right? So we can use the calculator also to solve this particular question. Is it okay? So for all these questions, we'll need calculator. Okay. So we'll do 12 times 90, which is 1080, minus 12c plus 8c equals to 960. So let's bring numbers on one side. So we have 1080 minus 960 equals to these variables on the other side, 12c minus 8c. Is that okay? Now let's do the takeaway. So 1080 minus 960 gives you 120 equals to 12 minus 8 is 4c. We can divide by 4 now. So we get 120 divided by 4 equals to c. And when you divide 120 by 4, you get 30. So we get the value of c, correct? So we'll call this as our equation number 4. So in this particular case, we only want to know how many children's tickets are sold. So C is 30. So 30 tickets sold, we get our answer. So the last step is to write down the answer. It's very important, right? So, and in a statement form. So answer here is that it says determine the number of children's tickets sold. So it is number of children's tickets sold was 30. Is that clear? So that is how you're going to do it. Sometimes they want both the tickets. Then you can substitute the value of C in your equation 3 and find A, right? So it is 60, okay? So that is how you could do it. So I hope all these steps are absolutely clear. Now let's take the other examples. We'll go a bit faster now. Question number 2 here is, a cheetah notices an antelope 90 meters away and begins to run after it. If the cheetah runs at 20 meters per second and the antelope runs at 10 meters per second, how long will it take for cheetah to catch the antelope, right? So the situation is kind of like this. Let's try to understand. So what we are given here is that the antelope is actually 90 meters away. Let's say this is the distance 90 meters between cheetah and antelope, correct? And what we are saying here is that the cheetah can run at the rate of 20 meters per second. So it can run at the rate of 20 meters per second. The antelope can run at the rate of 10 meters per second, right? So somewhere cheetah will be able to catch much faster. Now, the idea here is how to write the equation. So that's the tricky part. So how long will it take for the cheetah to catch the antelope? So it is a distance, speed, time question, right? So distance, speed, time, you have to consider the relationship which I am showing here, which is very important. So we say distance is speed into time. So whenever you're talking about time, it is distance over speed, right? And distance is speed into time. When you're working with equation, it is a good idea to solve in terms of writing equation in terms of distance, right? So from here, we know distance d equals to speed times time, right? So that is what it is. Now the question is, how long will it take for cheetah to catch the antelope? So we'll say let cheetah take t seconds, right? So t seconds. So we'll write the equation in terms of t. Perfect. So in t seconds, what is the distance traveled by cheetah and what is the distance traveled by the antelope? That is what we have to see, right? So let us say both of them are able to, cheetah is able to catch up at this particular point. So the distance which they travel will be how much? Well, cheetah needs to run a distance of 90 plus, let us say this distance is x, right? And the antelope runs a distance of x only. Do you see that? Correct? So that helps you to figure out how to solve this particular question, right? So let's write down the equation. So we have done part one, that is we have defined one of our variables, which is t. Now second part here is we actually get two equations both in terms of time. One is that we have to see that x is the distance run by the antelope, right? So x distance is equal to the speed of the antelope, which is 10 meters per second, and the time t, right? So it is the speed of the antelope and 10 times t, right? So that becomes distance equals to speed into time, right? Now, the other equation you will get that cheetah runs 90 plus x, right? So for cheetah runs 90 plus x. So we have 90 plus x equals to speed of cheetah, which is 20 times t. Do you see that? So we get two equations in terms of distance. So I have avoided fractions. So let me write down here, avoid fractions. Write equation in distance. Correct? So that is a key. So let me number these two equations 1 and equation 2. So now we can substitute the value of x in equation 2. So we'll do the substitution, which is sub 1 in 2. Is that clear? So now x is 10t. I'm going to write here 10t. So we get 90 plus 10t equals to 20t. Is that clear to you? Now it's easy to solve. We can take it on the same side and then solve. So we get 90 equals to 20t minus 10t, which is equal to what? So let me write down the solution on the right side. So we'll just complete this. 90 equals to 10t, right? So from here we know t should be equal to 90 divided by 10, which is 9 seconds. Is that clear? So it says, how long will it take for a cheetah to catch the antelope? So we can write down the answer now. It will take 9 seconds for cheetah to catch antelope. Is that clear to you? So that is how we are going to answer. Now let's take the next question. Now here is another very interesting question. Question number 3. A pigeon and a seagull begins to fly from the top of a building. Every second, the pigeon's altitude increases 3 meters, while the seagull's altitude decreases 2 meters. If the pigeon reaches an altitude of 66 meters at the same time as seagull reaches an altitude of 31 meters, determine the height of the building and the number of seconds that have passed using system of equations with the substitution method, right? Okay, so it's better to sketch the situation here. So let's say we have this building, right? So this is our building from where pigeon and seagull take off. So pigeon is going upwards from here, right, in this direction. On the other hand, seagull is going downwards. Correct? Now what we are given here is that every second pigeon's altitude increases 3 meters. And what we need to find is height of the building and also the time. So two things. So let's define the variable first. So we say let height be h and time be t, right? So when we are given those final positions, is it okay? Now we have defined our variable. So as far as the pigeon's height is concerned, it is increasing 3 meters every second, right? So we can say that the y value, so we'll say in this direction, it is the y value for the pigeon. So y is equal to, this is for pigeon, right? So y value for pigeon is basically whatever this height is, right? This is height for us, plus it is going at the rate of 3 meters per second, right? So that means 3 times t. So it becomes h plus 3t. Is that clear to you? On the other hand, as far as the seagull is concerned, it is going down. So the y value for seagull is h minus 2t. Since the seagull is decreasing means negative by 2 meters. Is that clear to you? And the first case, increasing by 3 meters. So you add 3 times t. Every second, right? 3 meters per second. So you get your two equations. So let's number these equations as our equation 1 and 2. So we get our first equation and the second equation. Now we have two equations and two unknowns, h and t, which we need to figure out. Okay. So we are given these two heights also at time when the situation is given. The height of the pigeon is given as 66, right? So the height of the pigeon is 66 meters. So I'll write this as 66, and that of the seagull is 31 meters. So I'll write this as 31, correct? So in our equation 1, we kind of have it like this, that h plus 3t is 66 and h minus 2t is 31, right? Now, we need to solve this equation with substitution. So I need to isolate h. So from equation 2, we can say h equals to 31 plus 2t, right? So we have isolated one of our variables in terms of time, and now we'll substitute, right? We'll sub 3 in our equation number 1. That's the key, right? So when you sub h in equation number 1, we get 31 plus 2t plus 3t equals to 66. Is that clear to you, right? So what we did was, we substituted this value of h in here. Is it clear? So we get 1, and you got only one unknown, which is time, t here, correct? You can always solve for it. Take 31 to the other side. So we get 5t equals to 66 minus 31, right? Now let us solve this equation and find the value of t. So we get 5t, I'm rewriting this, equals to 66 minus 31. So when you take away 1, you get 5, and when you take, you get 35, right? So t is equals to 35 divided by 5, which is 7. So the time is 7 seconds, right? 7 seconds. So we got the value of t. To find the value of h, we call this as equation 4 now. We'll sub 4 in 3. So height h will be equals to 31 plus 2 times 7, since t is 7 for us, right? So that is 31 plus 14, and that gives you 4 plus 1 is 5, and 3 plus 1 is 4. So 45. The units are meters. So height is 45 meters, correct? So our answer here is h equals to 45 meters and t equals to 7 seconds. Clear? So that is how we are going to solve it. I hope you're finding it interesting and useful. You should feel free to write your comments and share your views. Let's now take up question number 4. By now, I hope all these steps are absolutely clear. Let's go a bit faster, right? Question number 4. Charles earned $50 per hour as a piano teacher and $25 per hour as a babysitter. If he worked a total of 40 hours last week and earned $1,600, how much money did he earn doing each job? So there are two jobs. One, we are saying the job is as a piano teacher, so we'll have P as our variable, and the other is a babysitter. So B, the other variable, right? So those are our variables, right? Variables, and both are in hours, That is the unit. Now, what is P plus B equals to? We are given total of 40 hours, right? This is your first equation. The second one, you could always write as he earns $50 as a piano teacher. So, 50 times P plus 25 as a babysitter. So, 25 times B is the total earning, which is 1,600. Is that clear? So that is how we get both the equations this time. Now we need to isolate one variable. So we can isolate any one of them. Let's say piano is equals to 40 minus B. So we have isolated, and now we'll do substitution, correct? So we'll substitute 3 in 2 and get equation in one variable. So we have 50 times 40 minus B plus 25B equals to 1,600, correct? So we get our equation. Well, there are times when it is better to simplify and then work with these equations, right? So we will now actually simplify this. So let's simplify. I could have simplified this equation here itself by dividing by 25. Is it clear to you? Right? So we could have done it either way. So simplify. So we say divide by 25, right? Each side. So if you do that, let me rewrite the equations. So when you divide by 25, you get 2 times 40 minus B plus B equals to 25. 4 is 100, and then you can multiply this 16, right? So we'll do 1600 divided by 25, which is 64. Correct? So we have divided everything by 25. Clear? We could have done this here also. I could have written this equation as 2P plus B equals to 64. Does make sense? Right? So we could have done 25. When you divide this, you get 4 times, right? And 4 times 16 is 64. And that is how you get this, right? So we'll actually continue with this equation now. So we'll open the bracket, which is 2 times 40 minus B plus B equals to 64. So when you open, you get 80 minus 2B plus B equals to 64. So bring 64 to the left side, only because this is negative term otherwise, right? 64 equals to 2B minus B. So when you take away, 16 equals to B. So B value is 16, right? So if B is 16, let's call this as equation number 4 for us, right? Then we'll sub 4 in 3. So we get the value of P as equals to 40 minus 16, which is 4 and then 3 24, correct? So now we can write down our answer, that how much money did he earn during each job? We have to write the money earned, right? So these were the hours worked, right? So now we have to write money earned. So for piano, the rate is $50, correct, per hour, and the time is 24, right? So the money earned is 24 times 50, correct, which is 1200. And for the babysitter, it is 25 times the time taken is 16. Do you see that? So for babysitter is 16 times 25. So you could write 4 times 4, so 400, right? So the answer here is for piano, it is $1200, and for babysitter, it is $400. Is that clear to you? So that is how we could do it. And you can check your result that if you add them, you do get 1600. So that makes sense. Perfect. So that is how you're going to solve this question. Hope all the steps are absolutely clear. Let's move on and take the next question now. Question number 5. If 3 chickens and 2 ducks weigh 29 pounds and 3 chickens and 10 ducks weigh 85 pounds, find the weight of 1 chicken, right? So we say we can define the variable saying let weight of chicken be C and that of duck be D, right? In that case, what are we given? We are given that 3 chickens and 2 ducks, right? So first statement is 3 chickens and 2 ducks weigh 29 pounds. So that means 3C plus 2D equals to 29. Clear? Now we are given 3 chickens and 10 ducks. So 3 chickens and 10 ducks weigh 85 pounds. Okay, so we get the second equation. So we'll call them as our equation number 1 and 2. We have to solve by substitution, right? So remember this part. So we have to solve by substitution. We can now find what 3C is. So from this equation itself, we can say 3C is 29 minus 2D, right? So we can substitute 3C. So it's not always necessary to isolate C, right? So we'll call this as our third equation and we'll now sub 3 in 2, right? So when you do substitution of equation 3 in 2, then we'll replace this 3C with 29 minus 2D. So we'll write this as 29 minus 2D plus 10D equals to 85. Is that clear to you? So we basically substituted 3C right here as 29 minus 2D, right? So this value. And now we have one variable which is the duck weight, right? And we can first find the duck weight and then we'll get the value of C from this equation. Clear? So we can take 29 to the other side. So we get 10D minus 2D equals to 85 minus 29. And that is 8D is equal to, so 15 and take away 9 is 6. And then 7 take away is 5. So the duck weight here is 56 over 8. And we know 8 times 7 is 56. So we get D as 7. Now, let's call this as our equation number 4, right? So we'll now sub 4 in 3 to get the value of chicken weight, right? So 3 times chicken equals to 29 minus 2 times 7. So which is 29 minus 14. And this is 15 for us. So chicken weight is 15 divided by 3 or 5. So now we should write our answer and include the units. So answer is that how much is 1 chicken? So 1 chicken weigh 5 pounds. Is that clear to you? So that is how you're going to do this question. So we are almost at the midway now. Question 5 done. Let's take a small break and then continue with rest 5 questions.